One is getting through that initial phase. It's like, Carlos, it's like closing a deal. Okay. You there's a 6 month cycle, 3 to 6, maybe 9 month cycle, just to be able to figure out, do we want a partner? You date for a long time before you get committed. And then once you do that, then you have to go to market together, and figure out where you're going to go win business at.
Welcome to the 1% Edge podcast, where we dive into the journeys of extraordinary guests committed to getting 1% better. Today's topic: why experience is the most underestimated competitive advantage in modern organizations. And to help us out with that, I'm really honored to have Shane Yost. He's the founder and CEO of XA³, a veteran-founded digital experience consultancy. They're focused on accelerating adoption across customers, employees, and partners. And Shane is also a veteran himself. So thank you for your service, Shane, and thanks for being on the show with me today.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for having me. It's been a while since I got to see you last. Great to see you, man.
Happy to be seen. Shane's also been a customer of mine, so I got to know him over the time. So I'm really excited to have an opportunity to congratulate him on starting his own business and having so much success to start, and also having him on the show. So how about this to start with for our audience? Because I always like to kind of set the stage.
Okay.
When we say, experience is this, this competitive advantage, why don't you define what that means for you? And then we'll work on how it applies across the organization.
Well, Carlos, good question. And this is one of the reasons we focused on this as we opened up the company. When you talk about experience, we're talking about technology, and so many companies are buying software packages. COTS, somebody builds it for them or something like that, and they're expecting to change something in their environment. Just because you go from HubSpot to Salesforce, or you move to Concur, or whatever the product might be, it doesn't mean that things are changing within your organization. It just means that your folks are having to go through different clicks and probably somebody else's out-of-the-box process. If you actually step back and take a look at what people are doing from a employee, customer, or partner within your organization, how do you remove the friction around that? If we, every company takes care of a customer. If we look at that as number one, what do we need to do to take care of that customer? What's our product? How are we taking care of them? Where are we falling down at? Where are we succeeding? And then you start throwing into the players in there. One is the customer themselves. Two is the employees. And three is the partners in your ecosystem. If we remove friction and change the experience for our employees, if they can spend that much more time managing, taking care of, providing services to your customer, they're going to be happier. They're going to move faster. Probably the product moves faster as well, or whatever you're trying to provide there for them. You're going to retain your employees longer. You're going to adopt new employees. And then from a capture and retention of a customer perspective, that's what your partner ecosystem is. Historically, companies don't do an amazing job with partner management, onboarding them, enabling them, keeping them up to speed. How do I track revenue? How do I even find out what salesperson is tied to a hot lead that I have? Sometimes that takes weeks to find that. If we can remove all of that friction so they can do their job, they can go capture more customers for you. They can help retain them, because that's why you have them in your ecosystem, is to do that. When you put all three of those together and you start focusing on that from an enterprise, you change the game. You become more relevant day by day.
So it sounds like, like for an organization that's rolling out a new Salesforce CRM or a ServiceNow or whatever the application is, it sounds like your organization brings the experience into play, that it's not about just having a new app and some buttons and screens to play with, but really having the experience of knowing, how do we change some behaviors and the way we implement and integrate this new application within the organization, so it truly has an effective outcome at the end of the day. Did I say that right?
You did, and let's talk about history between us, Carlos. We're not spring chickens here on the call, but we met many years ago because of value selling. You came in and did a visualized implementation at a prior company for me, and as you look at value selling, and not to make this as value selling commercial by any means, but if you look at the value you're getting out of something and why you're going to go do something, you have to have a reason. There's personal
Mm-hmm.
and business value behind everything that you touch, that you do daily. If you haven't figured out what that intrinsic value is, if you haven't figured out a metric to report against that, why are you doing it? I had a great SC leader many moons ago when I was a pre-sales consultant, and she used to have a great saying. She said, "So what? Who cares?" If you're going to talk about something in a demo, you're going to put it in a presentation. If you're going to do something, if there's not some piece of something tied to that, a value, somebody cares about something, why are you doing it? I see a lot of firms out there going to help implement software, and they just go implement software to go implement software. They don't have that end goal in mind. How are we going to track things to make sure that what they paid my team, what they paid other people's team, was worth the time and effort to stand that product up?
It's some people call it a tactic, but I'm telling you, I think it's part of the secret sauce of a successful business. Like when I engage with accounts like yours, I always like at the beginning when we meet with a leadership team, like, why are we doing this? And literally, I'm not naming any names, but I've dealt with some large organizations where it's their education arm, their enablement side of the house that's like, well, we need this, we're rolling it out. Well, why are we doing it? To roll it out. So it's almost like, so you want workshops and you want 5 stars, like I did it, I checked the box, versus having the outcome be, hey, I moved the needle. I've driven revenue. I've improved customer retention. I've grown our deal size. I've shortened our sales cycles, right? Something tied to something that people care about. And it's funny because then when you ask attendees coming to the workshop, and this, I promise I'll throw it back to your thing. It's like, why are you here? And they'll go, my manager made me do it.
Yeah.
And you go, it's like, well, you could leave because you're not going to get anything out of it. You're here. You checked the box. You showed up.
Yep.
But for those that actually are here to go, maybe I got here not on my own free will because my boss made me do it. But now that I'm here to learn something. I'm here to get a nugget. Maybe it's validation that 60% of what I do is okay, but that 1%, aka the podcast, that's going to make a difference. That's going to mean the difference between hitting my number this year or not. It's going to be the difference between going to club or not. And it's funny in consulting, as I'll turn it around, is I think that, in your business, for example, going into accounts and going, well, what do you want to do? I want to, we're going like HubSpot to Salesforce and we want to get it up and running. Why?
Yeah. Exactly. The interesting thing, Carlos, is a lot of folks think that implementation as adoption is just more clicks that people are doing in the screen. It's not about the clicks. What happened because you did those clicks? What happened because more people are leveraging the software? What actually did you change at the end of the day? You're absolutely right when you talk about I'm here just because I want to roll this out, kind of thing. I've heard that so many times. Sometimes it gets uncomfortable to ask the questions. Like people don't
conversation.
People don't like to be put on the spot of like, hey, why do you want to do this? What is your outcome? Because if they tell you, they have to believe it's a goal for them as well. It's not just something you're marching towards, but collectively as a group, you're all marching towards that. And now you put a stake in the ground that everybody's moving towards.
Yeah, it creates an expectation of them.
Yes.
Right. Versus just, I got it on, it's go live. Oh, now you got to do something more than just that. Right. And I think organizations, when they have that, if their focus is really raving fans, that's what I call it. And it's from an old book that I saw a long time ago. But it's if their focus is to create raving fans, the only way they're going to be a raving fan is if they get an outcome from what they're doing with you. And it's funny because you were just talking about, kind of the difference with it, and you think about like the manufacturers that you may work with.
Yep.
Well, hey, they're going to love you more when you don't just implement it, but you create raving fans for the software, and now they keep renewing and using it because they want to keep that outcome, not just because they're stuck in a 3-year contract.
That's right. That's right. Well, there's a couple things about this too. I think is one, when you enter the conversation, some folks don't know why things happened the way they are today. They don't have a lot of answers about how they got started and where you showed up to. So if you change the game and you talk to them about, well, what's our goals? What's the outcome that we want? Once they do that, they, old sales terminology and stuff like that, you now create a champion in there because it's their words, it's their story, they believe it, and they're a sales engine, they're a cheerleading crowd for that particular project. I've named projects before, so we had a kind of a marketing campaign around particular things, but it grows with steam. It's like the snowball rolling downhill. It just collects as it moves along. It gets bigger organically because everybody understands what you're doing. You can actually talk about and go to board meetings and C-level meetings and show true outcomes around it. If companies were brighter about how they partnered together, they would all be doing this because products get stickier, companies get more relevant, get more value. It just becomes a long-term relationship that it's hard to break that.
Well, when we first engaged and talked about, experience as a competitive advantage, one of the aspects that I thought of is that willingness to have that hard conversation, to ask those tough questions early on, especially to some organizations that aren't aligned. Maybe they bought the software, but the left still isn't in agreement with the right. So now it falls on the lap of those consultants that have been asked to roll this out to weigh in and go through all that infighting to get alignment. But experience is what gives you the confidence to do that. Not, hey, I just went through training, I know the app really well. Press this button, turn on that feature.
That's right. That's right. It changes qualification of people. It changes the view against competitors. It changes, for lack of better words, when you go through that process, people understand that you understand what they care about, what's going on in there. You spent the time to understand their day to day and what happens in their family, and now you're part of the family. You're not just somebody that shows up and says, "Hey, I'm going to do this for you." Once you go through that effort and that it's much easier to move forward together.
Agreed. So one of the aspects I love of what you're doing is this focus on veterans. And I used to always love having, former military folks as part of my team, just because they always had this grit about them, right? It was like, hey, you know what? Everything may not be perfectly worked out, but what do you want me to do? What's the mission? And you knew that they were going to do everything possible to get there, right? And they just had that grit about them versus other people that haven't been through that experience. So how do you find great veterans that have the experience to have them come to your team? Because those guys are really tough to find, I'm guessing.
They are and they aren't. If you don't know where to look, they're hard to find. But if you're in the community, they almost fall in your lap, kind of thing.
Nice.
So my co-founder Jason is also a former Navy guy. I was a Navy myself, and he's a academy grad. So between the two of us, over our long history of careers, we have a pretty good Rolodex out there. But there's specific veteran organizations out there. There's SkillsBridge, there's Vets to PM. Even where I'm at in Austin, there's becoming a pretty good vets in tech group around. You think from small startups up to large consulting firms are here and focused on that. what I like about it is exactly what you talk about is the grit. And it's not that they're not polished. So when we say grit, I don't mean that they're sandpaper. I mean that they are comfortable in any situation. The
Mhm.
situation doesn't have to be smooth. The training that we went through and the situations that we all went through in the military, we had to learn to be comfortable in the most uncomfortable spots. In the noisiest, most chaotic situations, we have to make calm, clear decisions because failure usually wasn't an option that we liked. And so when you find somebody highly trained and you can add tech skills, or even if they have tech skills to that, it's absolutely phenomenal. Now there's certain positions that I really like to have veterans in when I'm talking about like engagement managers or project managers kind of thing, because very, very process oriented, making sure that the mission is met, visibility, chain of command, all of those kind of things are bred into those folks in there. But Carlos, we're not just focused on vets. We do have a big women in tech initiative as well. So some of my first employees that we hired are women, and they are helping start our women in tech
Nice.
process here. Yeah, program.
I think it's great on both counts. When you think about the training, so I'll give a shout out to my financial planner. He used to be a detective,
Hmm.
and he's a retired detective, and then he got into financial planning. And then I met him later in life. And one of the things I love about Don is like, we'll have these financial planning calls, and it'll be like, Shane, we met on Friday at 12:02. Here's what we discussed. Here are the actions that we're taking. I just need your confirmation. And I'll also be calling you to confirm these buy sell orders. So he's a super nice guy, but he's uber organized. And then especially when it comes to my money, I want to feel that someone is like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So you want to buy Amazon. Okay, yeah, whatever. He's super organized in what he does, and it gives me a lot more confidence in our working relationship. And it all comes from his training, through the years. And I'm sure you find it in some of your folks within the organization.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. A couple different things there. One is staying on task, following up with people. I never have to worry about one of my vets following up with the customer, getting engaged, bringing leadership in when it's needed. Transparency and visibility all the way through. Um, there's other aspects about it as well out there. Customers love the focus. Um, there's you think about a vet's life is they move every 2 to 4 years from one place to another. They put them into a new unit, new country, new city, new base, whatever it is. It's their job to get embedded and make progress as soon as they land. So when you talk about moving them from project to project, they instantly find friends. They instantly find a way to blend in there, and they just move forward. It's amazing.
Love that. All right. So a lot of our examples have been like our interactions and how experience is helping customers. We touched a little bit on partners, but I want to circle back to it. How are you folks doing something different with all these partner organizations that you work with?
Yeah. The partner organization to me is twofold. When I talk about customers, employees, and partners, we're aligning to key platforms that go focus on that. So how do we change adoption experience for employees, customers, as well as partners? There's key platforms and capabilities that truly focus in that, and I'm building my team and specialties around those capabilities. Secondary, I'm a partner who partners. So I'm one that is out there, partnering with a system integrator. Think about anything from a boutique SI all the way up to a big guy that's out there. To bring in a specialty set of skills, what's it take them 6, 12 months to stand up a business unit? and then hopefully go compete against some other firm that is going after that same business. Well, I can augment them with my team and bring specialty resources in, you know, Navy snipers, Green Berets, whatever you want to call it there, you know, storm the beachhead and then bring in the Army to set up camp afterwards for them. And, you know, be instant value to them, and they can compete today on what's available out there, not in a year.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you're talking, I'm thinking back through my career. I started out at a reseller, and we worked really hard to really own that customer relationship, from not only implementing some technology but creating custom technology as well to meet the needs of that customer. But I've also worked on the other side of it, where I'm the manufacturer, and I've also run the professional services guys that are in the manufacturer. And then I'm like, okay, how do I work with partners and through partners, and how do I create this ecosystem where we can all trust each other, focused on a successful outcome of the customer at the end of the day, not just you win, I lose type of relationships. And it's not easy, right? It takes, people talk about playing golf and dinners. Like, it takes a lot of sitting, in a room and just working through this working relationship and having some standards also. And maybe that's part of the experience. Like, this is how we like to do things, and getting buy-in from the manufacturers or your partners with that.
You're spot on. I've spent almost my entire career in IT with partners and in channel. It could have been setting up a partner network. It could have been at a channel organization for a large company, large software company, running global OEM businesses, all kinds of things. And really, what I found over the years is the people that can gather together. Not just one or two partners, but a group of people that can collectively go and provide a service, provide capabilities, provide an ecosystem for capabilities out there. That's when you win. There's two stages to partnering with another company. One is getting through that initial phase. It's like, Carlos, it's like closing a deal. Okay, there's a 6 month cycle, 3 to 6, maybe 9 month cycle, just to be able to figure out, do we want to partner? You date for a long time before you get committed. And then once you do that, then you have to go to market together and figure out where you're going to go win business at. Just because you partner doesn't mean that business is there. It just means that you've decided that you can go do something together, and you have a rate card for each other when you need to go work. So over that time, you've built some phenomenal relationships. I mean, you and I have known each other for years. We're reconnecting here again. It is work, but once you build those relationships, they're lasting, they're a lifetime. It's fun when you see people at conferences or events, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's part of building his raving fan thing that I think people also miss. Is like, you gotta want to, not only have a successful outcome with this customer or employee or partner you're working with, but also along the way, hopefully you've created, some mutual interests, right? I've called you for barbecue recipes because you're an award-winning barbecuer. You reached out to me when my mom died, and I really appreciated that. And it's not fake, right? You got to want to do that with folks. Yep. And want to be interested in caring about folks to have that level of relationship. And you'll find out it may not be across all your accounts and all your customers, because it's just, we're not everybody's cup of tea. But the ones that you were able to establish that with, it makes work a lot more joyful, because there's going to be challenges, there's going to be roadblocks, there's going to be things that slip. And when they do, you want to make sure you can, have a meeting with someone, look them across the table, be honest about the situation, and both mutually figure out a way out of it.
I would say I love that. And in addition to that, the icing on the cake is you never know what the opportunities are going to be together tomorrow to go work together again. Over my career, I've set up some great relationships, and I've ran into people again that have opened up new business units, that we went and closed amazing deals together. Mm-hmm. And it was just because you ran into somebody at a coffee shop or an airport bar or something. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm doing this. And they were doing the same thing, and you got to go do something together. So you're spot on, man.
I love it. All right. So real quick, because I'm just curious, you've started this new business. You've seen some great success rate, from starting it. What's been one of your biggest challenges and how have you overcome it?
Hmm. I think, in the sea of partners out there, in these communities, how do you stand out? How do you be different? And you just don't want to go into the same ecosystem and be battling for pennies to get some deals. So it's really, when we set up the company, we really thought a lot about that. Is how do people look at us different? Um, you know, there's a famous glass company that created crystal. And it's just because the way they were able to do it. And how do you get to that level of value, friendship, loyalty, with key players out there in the market to make a difference?
Yeah, I love when you sent me that thing. It's it sounds a lot better. Uh, cut glass sounds crystal sounds expensive.
Yes, exactly. That's right on.
uh, so Shane, if people want to know more about XA³ and connect with you folks, tell us a little bit more about maybe what areas you're focusing on or whatever you want, and then we'll talk about how do they engage with you.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. So we're focused into the couple deep spaces. One is the digital adoption platform space. We've got a couple key partners out there. We're focused into the customer experience platform space, and then the PRM platform space, so partner relationship management. In that sense, I'm looking for some key partners that want to go to market with those products, need some help on transforming companies and getting much bigger and wider. From anybody that wants to follow us, learn more, XA3.com is our site. You can find myself on LinkedIn. As you know, Carlos, I'm publishing a ton of content right now, and I'm hoping that it resonates. But I'm open to any and all calls with people. I love connecting, love partnering. I'd love to hear from folks.
I think it's awesome. And we were talking last year, the effort you've put into really creating a bigger presence, but it's not just, hey, here's what I'm doing, give me a call. It's, hey, here's a piece of data that I thought people would find valuable. And that's what I think those posts are the most useful, right? Because you're giving some of your knowledge and experience to others, sharing that with them in order to give something of value. And then if something comes out of it, hey, maybe we have a reason to communicate or talk. So I think that's awesome.
I appreciate that. Even if one of these posts makes somebody scratch their head, I accomplished what I wanted to. So
I love it.
yeah.
Hey, so what's your 1% edge? What are you working on these days to get 1% better?
I have a problem. I call it a problem, that I never leave good enough alone. I always want to be better. That's why golf is such a horrible game for me. Because you could shoot a 78 and then you expect more and you want to go do more. I agree. I believe that in everything I do. Every success that we have, everything that we've done, we look back. What did we do? How did we do it? Could we do it better? Could we do it faster? Could we do it cleaner? Did we change the message? I'm a big believer that if, complacency leads to irrelevancy out there. So, I think Blockbuster and those kind of companies are prime examples of that. And I want to make sure that me personally, I have OCD around this, that I'm always getting better myself. Yes.
So, and I remember when I first met you, and you told me about had done these barbecue competitions, and at first I thought it's gonna, but then you go like, well, I built my own barbecue. Yes, so it wasn't like hey, I'm just thinking about the right temperature, getting the right meat, getting the right seasoning, the right cut. You went as far as I don't know. I got to design my own barbecue to kind of get the right heat consistency, at all temperatures. When you do something, you go all the way in, and I'm sure that's how you are with your customers as well. So because I've seen it, so I know you're going to be successful at this.
I appreciate you, my man. Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Hey, let me close this out or else I'll be talking to you forever. So, all right, folks, this does it for this week's episode. If you found some value in our conversation, please comment back, subscribe, reach out to my good friend Shane, connect with him. We would both greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I wish you nothing but the greatest success. Thanks again, buddy, for being on the show.
Thanks, Carlos. I appreciate the time, my man.
All right, until next time.